Don't want to rush here or anything. Call the meeting to order on this Wednesday, April 22nd. Silent business. Do we have any correspondence? No correspondence. We have two consent items. The agenda and the meeting minutes of February 25. If you have a chance to look, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Well, we'll do the consent all together so we can keep it in one motion. Sure. Make it easier for the minute taker because I know how fun it is taking minutes.
Do you want me to reword it? You got it.
So you approve, or you move to approve consent items as
She already
presented?
fixed it, yeah.
Okay. Has everyone had any comments on meeting minutes? For a second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Moving merrily along straight into board reports. Mr. Hyatt, how's your world?
Pretty good. No issues at all. I haven't had anybody complain about me yet, so.
We're gonna talk about that later.
Later.
Good, how's everything in Adele?
It's good. Yeah. Keeps me rolling along.
It's important, forward motion. Mr. Sharp?
Everything's hunky-dory. The kids are getting rowdy. They got the new track program. That sounds like a pretty good bit. And they raised, I think somewhere last I heard was about $19,000 towards the new program. So it's, that was pretty shocking. So, and the kids love it. There's, I think like 19 or 20 kids in the high school and about the same in junior high, and it was kind of like, really? So, and some of them are already ranked in state, and it's the first year, so that's kind of neat.
Wow.
Or at least on the
That's
list.
exciting.
Kendra Murphy, sophomore, is number 4 high jumper in the state right now.
Cool.
Well, you know, in Lake County, we wait until it's time. You know, why spread it out, right? No different. Well,
So anyways, it's pretty neat.
That's good stuff.
It's glad to see the kids get sunburned.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to see a little mold between their toes, but we'll take the sunburn. Mr. Kiono?
We are going to keep, our superintendent will stay 1 more year, Bill's going to stay another year. I don't know if I told you that or not. So, you know, just convince him to stay another year, and then we'll refly that next year, I think. I don't think I can get him for 2 years. So, we're going to have quite a bit of staff turnover this next year, so that's going to be interesting for us. Just people leaving, moving on, doing different things. So that everything seems to be going pretty well.
That'll be especially interesting if you have a leadership change also.
Yeah.
It
and
really
that's one of
puts a
the-
whole different
Yeah, whole different
flavor on
spin
it.
and stuff. And legislatively, I think everybody's leaving us alone. If Mark Haas would go away, we'd be happy camper.
So far, so good.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
But that's,
Good.
well, that's going well.
Mr. Griffin?
Quiet. Nothing.
Quiet and nothing.
No.
Well, what's up with this retirement gig? I thought you were supposed to be busy and wishing you could go back to work for a break.
Everything seems to happen between 8 and 9 a.m. and I don't get up.
Oh, must be nice.
Oh,
Plenty of early mornings driving for how many years?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
earned it.
I used to be 5:30 a.m. but
8 and 9.
no, not anymore.
Vicki?
Well, I updated, Bob's already heard this, but House Bill 3380 is the proposal for serving children 130 above poverty to 200, that group of children throughout Oregon that are not currently going to preschool. Under the governor's bill, there was money to roll out to try and cover those children, and so Head Start and the Child Institute is what's behind the bill, so that we currently serve 56% of poverty. That'll bring us to 65 to 130, and then we support getting the other children. If it passes, it'll roll out about fall of 2016. right now, the hard piece is that anyone can apply for it, and it'll come through the Early Learning Division under Oregon Department of Ed. Then the overseers will be the navigators under the hub. And the monies come out of the Learning Division, which is good, because they're the specialists in early education. The hard thing is that right now, the requirement is that your teachers have to have bachelor's, and the pay has to be the beginning salary of a kindergarten teacher. And it's 6 hours a day. And so we don't know how it's gonna roll out, but a lot of the pushback is that salary for teachers, because that opens for schools to apply to do preschool, and shuts down in the rural areas a lot of individual, like the ones that are opened up in the church and stuff. They just can't do that. They are saying they're giving them a 5 to 10 year waiver to get up to that bachelor's and that salary, but there's just no way that, you know, so that's the stickler. And so,
Most of those teachers have masters.
well, they have to have a BA at least, and this, I know, and the starting kindergarten teacher's salary, they're saying, which a lot of them have higher levels of education, and so that's the argument. And so, and they said that, you know, if it's approved, it doesn't roll out for a year and a half, there could be changes. And that's the concern, is because a lot of the smaller preschools just couldn't do it.
Are there minimum numbers per teacher?
It's 10 to 1 because of early
10 to
childhood.
1.
And they also, and there will be overseers, they'll come out and inspect the buildings, help them get started if they are new to it. So there's a lot of,
Well,
4 more layers in the hub.
how much per child would the funding be?
They haven't said that.
At 10 per teacher?
You can't pay it.
Your
We,
margin.
our Head Start teachers have to have bachelors, and we can't pay them the salaries that schools do. And if these, and I mean, if we opened it up in our new building, if I had one to meet the governors on that, all my teachers would move from Head Start over there because
If you
they're gonna
got
make twice
state
as much.
rate
Yeah,
At 10 per teacher.
no, they're talking,
With a first year kindergarten teacher's pay, there's
only-
virtually no
the only,
margin for error there
Right,
at all.
most districts are looking at class sizes probably in the mid-upper 20s.
yeah. And so you can have 20 in a class, but you have to have 2 teachers. And they can never be out of sight or out of sound if they're below 5 years old. And so it really puts a damper. And the only number we got was 6,000 in the conversation. We said, well, wait a minute, that would not pay the salary of what you're asking. And,
Not with building
so-
costs.
oh no,
Everything
so anyway,
else.
it's a good positive. It's been talked about for years, and it's finally coming out. And it's exciting that maybe all kids will get, you know, universal kindergarten, but it's, you know, there's still some kinks. But, yeah,
More good news.
well, it's more positive than it
It's better
was.
than what it was.
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
How's the new building project?
Well, we're back 3 weeks because to re-approve our design, but we meet Wednesday to approve the design and everything, and it's out for bid, and we have to be done by April 2017, but Ray and Daryl Anderson figure fall of 2016 when this rolls out. So I'm hoping my building's ready so I can serve more kids. So,
Well, good.
Yeah,
That's gonna be a big
so-
project.
yeah.
Anything else on your front?
Nope, that's all the news.
Pretty quiet here. I had a chance on Tuesday to be at the library in Paisley, installing internet connection through TNet. And so that was exciting.
Do they let you on campus?
Even after hours. But how's that been working for the
Really
business
good.
school?
We're really excited and starting to spread to the community. We're hoping maybe it'll start beaming up to Summer Lake, but people are very, very happy, they're competitive as far as cost. So it's been a very, very good thing.
And performance has been what you
Performance is
expected.
good, and they said they're gonna even, once they get to Kingstown, whatever they may be, they're gonna actually ramp up the speed a little bit more, so.
Great.
Yeah, it's been very good.
I know from the point, working with the library, that was pretty exciting for them, because they've been running off of a cellular hotspot,
Oh.
which is a challenge.
No, expensive too.
Yeah, just a couple computers, but still, it's a great thing for the community. It's really gonna be a nice step up. That's all I have, it's exciting. Oh, moving merrily down, we've got financial report.
Okay, we are looking to be on track to end the year where we expected to end it, so that is good news. On the yellow sheet, it shows in the revenue section, the bottom section, it shows that we received $17,000 more in ODE grants. $15,000 of that is for the grant writer grant that we talked about last month. So that was new money, it's one-time money, we won't get it again, most likely. But it was very helpful this year to keep us on track. But yeah, that's the basic financial report there.
Sarah, in regards to taxes, sometimes it seems we received more, we received less. Just in local taxes, how is it this year? Is it,
I would have to look at that specifically, but I think that we are receiving a little bit less than last year, but we're still in the ballpark.
okay. And that could be late payments, but.
It could be, yeah, and I'll just,
Any other questions from the financial report, from the check register, or don't forget there's the detailed costs and expenditures should you care to look at anything in detail. Good reason for that detail, isn't it? No other questions on the financial reports then? Dale, I'm really disappointed. Nothing on the check register. Let's move into the superintendent report.
Well, as Dale pointed out, there's a little bit of movement in personnel. I'm hearing it in Paisley, North Lake, Lakeview. They're all sort of bracing for some changes, some departures, some new faces. We are not immune from that at the ESD. In the last few weeks, we've received resignations from Desi Thornton, our business assistant, and Bree McCoy, our receptionist. And so what we have done is we're taking that opportunity with the confluence of those resignations is we are looking at combining those positions into a full-time position. And we've had it out for what, a week, something like that. Applications are trickling in. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, timing is not real good, particularly on Sarah's end of things, because this is budget season, and the show must go on. And without Desi's help,
Is that effective immediately?
we had 2 weeks notice from both of them.
But it's still not very much.
Today
not much
was
time.
their last. Well, no. Yeah, today was their last day for both of them. Yes.
You too mean to him, Sarah? Is that what it was?
I'm pretty demanding,
Were either of them, they were both part-time?
They were both part-time.
So if you do a full-time, then you have to add benefits, right? The budget.
Well, they wouldn't
Would they have gotten
benefits
benefits?
at
Do they get
halftime.
benefits at
Yeah.
that time? I didn't know that was my question. Okay.
Bree accepted a position at Washington Federal, full-time, and Desi accepted a position, it's basically, I guess, in admitting in the hospital, or, if it had worked out, anyway, it happened at the same time. I think if there's good news for us, it's that we can fly it as one full-time position. I think that really enhances our chances of getting somebody, pretty high quality, particularly for the business end of things, because since we're doing the North Lake business, we've gotta keep Clayton happy. So, that's just,
You're not going anywhere, are you?
I asked him that when I came in, I had heard.
I already did that sermon.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. We won't go into detail. After the meeting, I'll talk to you. No, I am very happy here. In fact, I had dinner last night with a gentleman who's actually doing the District 7 search, and I flat told him. Okay, so that's one issue. The second issue involves our North Lake speech pathologist, who about a month ago turned in a letter of resignation. So up to North Lake I go and had a chat with her. She's looking for a job in Portland. Little bit of a misunderstanding. She got her letter of intent from us. She kind of took it pretty serious and decided that meant she better resign because she's looking for a job. And I explained to her, no, the typical experience is that you can sign your letter of intent to come back next year, and as long as you give us adequate notice, we're not gonna hold you to a contract for next year. So, but conversely, I also made it clear to her that we were, since she was looking, that we were going to advertise for a speech language pathologist. And so in other words, she hasn't officially resigned, but we do have a position listed.
Okay.
And I'm happy to say we actually have an applicant who I attempted to contact today, because SLP applicants are few and far between. So anyway, we'll keep you tuned on that. She indicated to me that, she was looking to move to Portland to be closer to family, and that she wasn't just looking at any old place, and if she didn't get a job in Portland, she'd be very happy to stay in North Lake. So that's where we are with that one. Early Learning Hub update. I don't know if I've informed the board this before, but Klamath County is now part of the Douglas Lake Hub. So we have a third in our club. As Vicki kind of pointed out, probably the major development as far as local hub stuff, our kindergarten innovation grant, our literacy grant, seem to be going quite well. Vicki knows more about the literacy stuff. I know more about the kindergarten stuff. Both North Lake and Lakeview are doing some good stuff with the grant. And down in Lakeview, a lot of parent engagement strategies and meetings have been held. They've contacted not only a lot of preschool parents, but also current kindergarten parents. Tammy White is doing very similar types of work up at North Lake, so going pretty well. The only problem, of course, is that based on Oregon funding, the money all goes away come June 30th, and then we have to reapply, and it makes it hard.
Is it gonna be available?
I have heard that it's going to be available.
Okay, because when they were asking because no one sent in their report but mine, and when I got the email from Jessica, it sounded like that was the end of it, so. The parenting one, the literacy and the,
Kindergarten.
no, kindergarten is 2 years, isn't it?
It's 2 years, but it was
Right.
last year and this year,
Okay.
so.
No, they were talking about the family resource manager and
Right,
the
yeah.
literacy piece, sounded like
Okay.
it was 1 year, yeah.
So we'll just have to wait and see on that. Chalkboard grant, I think I probably already told you these things. We're having a county superintendent meeting tomorrow. We've really focused in on two potential technology supports for evaluation and professional development countywide, using some resources we got in our Chalkboard grant. We're looking at, one of them is actually a free pilot program through ODE. We're definitely going to go with them as far as supports for evaluations, literally allowing administrators when they go in to do an observation to have an iPad or even a smartphone and be able to record data right there. And then it goes into reports, and teachers can look at it. It's pretty amazing stuff. The other piece that we're looking for is a platform for professional development countywide. That's a little bit more problematic. The other thing that we're doing with our Chalkboard grant, and I think I mentioned this to the board last time, but it's really become firm. We've signed a contract. We're going to have 2 county-wide professional development activities next year. the first one on August 31st. And thank you to Paisley, because I know it's been a little bit of a problem for you guys calendar-wise. We're gonna do this, we're gonna meet in Paisley on August 31st, and then on October 23rd, which is a Friday. The plan is to try to get every teacher in the county there. We have a very dynamic presenter, Marcia Moyer. She's the one that most of the administrators in the county have been meeting with. And actually, some of the teachers have been involved in this as well. From the ESD, we've had Marcia Nichols involved because she does our teacher mentoring, and she's, you know, there's a lot of crossover between the new evaluation expectations and mentoring of new teachers. So anyway, we're looking forward to have Marcia here. It'll be very interesting as all the teaching staff from the entire county converges on Paisley in those 2 days. We'll be using chalkboard resources to help the districts provide transportation, and we'll be providing food, and it'll be very exciting. We'll see how it goes. It's the first time we've had that. I think it's really the first time we've had anything close to that level of collaboration and cooperation between all of the districts in the county. So we're just
So there's truth to the fact that Paisley is our conference center for Lake County.
they're the convention center for Lake County.
Just get a motel there, see, and you'll have your central part of the
Well,
county,
there's
you could
The
start.
stage rooms, there's 2 rooms.
That's 2 rooms.
It'll be a little cozy.
I tried to convince them of that when they did the parenting as a pleasure, and they wouldn't go to Paisley. I wanted them, everything to meet in the middle, and 2 rooms they said was not a motel.
We are having a few issues with truancy around the county. And so that's why I need to rehire John Griffin as the county truancy officer.
You don't have to start before 9.
Make it 10, he's 30%
Say me
coffee.
11-ish to 2.
That was fun sometimes, it really was.
What is he on Dish Network hours or something?
Yeah, 11 to 2, you know. That's retirement work hours. Quarter time
Is
hours.
this going to be an ordinance?
Yes, so I'll explain. This year, we've run into a couple of real sticky cases, one up in North Lake and one here in Lakeview, where even after dragging parent and kid into court, I cited them after, and this is after Mr. Kerr at North Lake and Mr. Prock at Lakeview had numerous meetings and agreements and yada, 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 and still no improvement in attendance. And then a month or so ago, I cited them into court. Judge Nichols did about the only thing he could do under the Oregon law on truancy, which is fine the parents. But then it was the first court appearance, he suspended the fine pending improved attendance and gave all of the parents and students involved a certain number of days they could miss for the remainder of the year. No improvement, just absolutely no, just complete disregard for the situation. For a number of years, we have known about a program in Klamath County whereby particularly it's effective particularly for older kids, because what it does, the only remedy currently under the Oregon law is to fine the parents, and usually these are parents of extremely minimal means, and a fine doesn't mean much. And there's really, beyond that, and if they don't pay the fine, beyond that, there's really nothing the court can do. So we've done a little bit of research, put our heads together, and we have gone to the county commissioners initially, and we have written, along with juvenile department and Judge Nichols and some administrators here in the county, we have proposed this ordinance. And basically, if you turn it over to the very last section, you can see there, A says the circuit sanctions. A, the circuit court shall have the authority to determine whether the child has violated this ordinance relating to compulsory attendance. The court may order the child to attend school following a review by the court. B, in the event the child fails to follow the court order to attend school, the child may be cited back into court. The court may use all necessary lawful action, including the court's contempt authority, to compel the child's attendance. And it's that last sentence then that gives the judge the power to use a variety of sanctions, including juvenile probation and, if necessary, juvenile detention. And this is what's going on in Jackson County. It's what Klamath County has been doing for a number of years. I've been involved in the Lakeview schools with truancy for a number of years. I've actually talked with some of the Klamath people about this, but we have just never in Lake County gotten to the point where something has been this necessary. And so we met, like say, Judge Nichols and the juvenile department and myself and Mr. Prock met with Dan Chown a few days ago, and we have the first hearing on this in front of the commissioners on May 5th.
Do they still have on the books that law that if a kid isn't enrolled or attending regularly, that they can't get their driver's license?
You know, I can't remember if that's on the books or not, but one of the difficulties is the kids, the 3 children we are dealing with currently, and dealing with not very effectively, are ages 12, 13, and 15.
Okay.
You know, I can't remember if that law was repealed or not. I'll have to check on that.
I'm almost positive in our policy book that there's something to it too, that if the kids aren't coming to school, there's something in our policy. The superintendent can actually
Yeah.
report something about the driver's license and have it suspended. There's several different layers. to it.
District 7 has that in their policy as
Approving it.
well.
Or,
Okay.
I don't know,
So,
if
there
the
is
kids
something
are,
right
if the
there.
kids are that age, and this is up at North Lake?
The 2 younger ones, yeah.
Oh, man, there was some people so far out in the boonies that, you know, it was hard to believe, but, the driver's license thing did work to a slight degree. But also, if you suspected with the kids at that age, handing them over to child services development, there very well could be some kind of issue with child welfare.
Well, absolutely. And listen, when we get to that point, I am always in contact with DHS
Yeah.
and also law enforcement. And it just, boy, it takes, in fact, I have found when it gets to that point, if you don't have cooperation from either DHS or law enforcement or both, just the school sanction by itself is just meaningless, just absolutely meaningless. So, we'll see. Tomorrow, we're going, at our superintendent meeting tomorrow, this will be discussed. I am gonna propose one slight change. Under definition, they're quoting Oregon Revised Statute 339065, and the definition that's in there is if the child has 8 unexcused half-days in a 4-week period, they're in violation of the attendance policy. There's actually, under ORS 339065, there's another definition as well, and it's the one I tend to lean towards, and that is that schools are only basically to accept 5 days of excused absence in a 3-month period or 10 days in a 6-month period. And beyond that, schools have the right to tell the parents that they're all unexcused. And because I've never, the half-day thing just sort of confuses me. I'm not really sure what that means. I like the 5 days in 3 months and the 10 days in 6 months. But again, this is straight from the Klamath County ordinance. So probably be a few tweaks to make. I know Commissioner Shannon is going to talk to the county council and find out exactly what the process would be, the timeline for the adoption of such a proposal.
Well, if the county enacts an ordinance, it has to go through a public hearing process with 2 noticed public meetings for feedback, and from that point, barring any significant opposition or legal reason, they can choose to move ahead as county ordinance or not.
So these parents could get out of this just by registering their home school?
They could.
And that's, when I say that we seldom get to this point, unfortunately, that's what happens in half the cases. The parents go, oh, all I gotta do is sign my kid up for homeschool and I'm home free.
Yeah.
The last refuge of the truant.
But I wonder why these folks haven't then. Interesting.
I don't know.
I certainly don't make that option part of the conversation, because I certainly think, you know, we're dealing with some very vulnerable, at-risk kids here. And I think going to school is a very good thing for them, so.
Well, good, that sounds like a good effort though, working with the juvenile department also. They seem to be pretty engaged.
They're very engaged, very engaged, yeah. I told the board at our last meeting that Marcia Nichols and I were starting some professional development for subs. We've had several sessions. I believe we've had, this is not huge numbers, but I believe we've got a grand total of 8 substitutes partake in either school-based or ESD-based professional development. We had a session last Wednesday evening. We're having another one next Wednesday evening on Engage New York Math. We've made this, if we haven't yet had anybody from North Lake or Paisley who wants to join us, but if they do, they're more than welcome. We'll figure out a way to Skype them in, or you know, whatever it takes to get that taken care of. So we're starting to see a little bit of momentum there, and we're darn glad, because we have lots of subs who, if we don't get them some hours, their licenses are going to go by the boards, and we are already countywide experiencing just a tremendous sub shortage. And you know, that's one of the reasons we're looking at a, you know, technology-based professional development system, because quite often what I hear from the districts, even District 7, is that they cannot spare teachers to go to professional development or go to meetings because they don't have enough subs. We're running into it also, as you know, we have our teacher mentoring program for first and second year teachers countywide, and quite often we're having real problems. And again, even in Lakeview, getting our younger teachers to those sessions because the district just doesn't have the subs available. So more and more of a problem there. Final thing, just once again, if anybody's looking for something to do from Thursday, May 14th through Saturday, May 16th, the OAESD Spring Conference. The bulk of the session really is Friday the 15th, where there's a lot of sessions on good things going on at the ESDs. So if anybody wants to come up, you're more than invited. I'll be up there.
Do you teach golf afterwards? Do you teach golf afterwards?
You know, they have a golf tournament as part of this, and I am trying to come up with every excuse I can to not participate.
So if you go up there and you see him limping, you know why.
Yeah,
Don't argue the story.
my best golf days are behind me. Anyway, any questions?
Great, appreciate the work you put in on this. For sure, it looks like we're gonna get a little update on some legislative matters.
Oh boy.
Time's up. So, going into audit RFP.
Here goes. You want the bad news or the bad news? No.
That's bad news or worse.
Let's just talk about general school funding first. It already came up briefly. I'm sure everybody is aware that the legislature has passed and the governor has signed the state school fund bill for the next biennium, funding schools at a level of $7.255 billion. And, you know, it's just unfortunate. $1 billion is not what it used to be. You know, there's a lot of controversy about that funding level because with the advent of all-day kindergarten and with districts trying to dig themselves out of some pretty bad times the last 3 or so bienniums, it just isn't, even though it's a fairly healthy increase, it just doesn't do the job. Most districts are gonna have, as I say there, are gonna have difficulty maintaining their current service levels. I haven't really talked numbers with Bill Wirtz, but, in talking with Dave Kerr, the thing that stands out is what he's looking at is just with current spending, with no increases, no COLAs, no higher gas prices, no higher this, just at current prices to maintain what he's got, he's probably gonna be about $110,000 short, is what he told me about this. Sean Gallagher, some of you probably saw it, was quoted in the Herald and News a couple of weeks ago, as he thinks he's about $180,000 short. So it's not real good. It's real sad when we're thinking that we're actually in the best economic times in Oregon that we've seen in years. And yet, it's very unfortunate. Now, I think as we said earlier, the legislature has promised that they will apply 40% of whatever increase in revenue comes in on the May forecast. 40% of that will go directly to the state school fund. That figure is believed to be that 40% will amount to somewhere between 40 to 50, possibly 60 million right now. So that would raise it to about 7.3, maybe a little bit higher. What you're hearing, and I'm sure you've all heard this, that basically the school districts around the state are saying if that figure's not 7.5 billion, they're looking at cuts. They're looking at not being able to maintain current service levels. So that's the situation in a nutshell. The Ways and Means Committee has been going around the state for the last 2 weeks, putting on their dog and pony show. They know that there's a lot of upset people on this. Tomorrow night at 5:30, they're going to be at OIT. Mr. Kerr and Mr. Gallagher and myself are going to go over. We each get a whopping 2 minutes to testify. I would imagine Dave and Sean are going to talk pretty much about those figures that I just mentioned. The bulk of what I have to say will just be simply about here is a list of what we have had to cut in this county the last few years, and the 7255 does not allow us to buy any of it back. So, 2 minutes.
Especially if you throw out on a percentage basis the impact on this population.
Yeah.
Because if you just throw dollar figures by contrast to what a larger situation is, it doesn't have the same impact as when you say the percentage of students impact.
Yeah, what really I think carries weight is if you can personalize it and make it very, very obvious about what is not there, either in terms of programs, elective courses, after-school programs, to in my mind, to make it very real. People, you talk dollars and people sort of glaze over. So. But anyway, from the sounds of it, the Ways and Means Committee is very sympathetic, but this 7255 was just a figure that was arrived at because they say that's all the money there is. And I'm sure we've all heard that. Okay, moving on to small ESD funding, a subject that is near and dear to our hearts. The bill that was introduced on our behalf by OAESD is Senate Bill 930. It was supported by the OAESD. At one point it was unanimously supported. In fact, officially it is still unanimously supported, although the last time it was voted there was a couple of abstentions from the larger ESDs, but they didn't oppose it. Senate Bill 930, as I've said before, would provide $100,000, or maybe I haven't said this. This may be news to you guys. Okay, this is the product of compromise between the large and the small ESDs. It would increase our funding $100,000 a year,
For how
10%. That's it.
Ongoing?
Oh, just a one shot?
No, well, it'd be every year.
Every-
Ongoing,
oh.
okay.
100,000.
And it's indexed.
So it would, yeah, and then future funding would be indexed to the overall ESD appropriation. So if ESDs in the state went up 3%, we'd go up 3%. If they went down 2%, we'd go down 2%. The funding floor would remain at the $1 million. So even though we would start at 1.1 million, the figure that we could never go below would stay at 1. 2 weeks ago, I went up and testified before the Senate Education Committee. I was also joined by Charlie Beck, the superintendent of Harney County, Jim Abbott, the executive director of OA ESD, and Gary Peterson, who's the superintendent of Columbia Gorge ESD, and he's the president of OA ESD. We testified. 2 days later, they approved it unanimously, including the aforementioned Senator Hawes. Well, because he is now focusing his venom on public charter school.
Oh, yes.
Virtual charter
Thank you.
schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I understand that bill isn't moving now.
It's not moving. It is not moving.
What do we do to piss him off? I wonder.
He just has a different way of looking at it.
He's been a thorn in our side for a long time.
For us, equity is kids having the same opportunities. For him, equity is the kids having the same dollars. God forbid a kid in Eastern Oregon should get a little bit more money than a kid in Beaverton. Unfortunately, when we did testify, our testimony was followed by Mr. Rob Meyer, who is the lobbyist for the 3 non-OA ESD, small ESDs, Grant, North Central, and Wallowa. He asked the Senate Education Committee to table our bill because he said they had a very similar bill in the House and that they were currently in negotiations with us, when I say us, the OA ESD, which was not the truth. And that he thought that there would be a compromise, and so he was hoping that they would hold on to the bill. Mr. Mabbitt had done, and Ozzie Rose had done a great job of kind of plowing the ground, and the senators knew exactly what was going on. They passed the bill. So it has now been sent to the Senate Finance Committee. Okay, the other group, the 3 small ESDs, proposed their bill. Initially, it was an increase of $231,000. But at the last minute, before it was approved by the House Education Committee, which was just a day or two after our bill was, they raised it to $360,000. Now, those figures, I'll just tell you, the $231,000 is what those 3 ESDs say is the effect of inflation on $1 million since 2003, 23%. Okay, and there's
Run the numbers.
yeah, I mean, it depends on which website you go to calculate your inflation. Most of them are a little bit smaller than that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's a good ballpark. Then at the last moment, before they passed this in the House Education Committee, the figure was raised to $360,000 a year increase per ESD. So in other words, if it were to become law, Lake County ESD, we would go from $1 million to 1.360. Okay, we get a 36% raise. Now, where did that figure come from? That figure comes from what they say, and I have not checked their math, but they say that the 36% comes from the increase in the state school fund since 2003. Okay. They also include in their bill an additional $360,000 one-time catch-up grant. So if this bill were to pass, we'd actually get $720,000 increase in the first year, and then it would be $360,000 after that. Their future funding is indexed to the state school fund, not to ESDs, which typically state schools around the state get more of an increase than the ESDs. ESDs, get 4.5% of the state school fund, and so quite often sometimes the Senator Hawes and others have decreased that percentage, and so can't always bank that their ESDs are going to get the same increase as the schools. Okay, and I'm sorry, there's a typo here. Their bill resets the funding floor at $1,360,000. Not at 360,000, so I'm sorry for that.
I had some angst when I read that.
Yeah. No, just trust me, these guys are.
They're asking for
Yeah.
Their bill also unanimously passed the House Education Committee. It's now in the House Revenue Committee. As we sit here tonight, what's going on is their lobbyist is talking with our lobbyist. Their lobbyist is Rob Myers, our lobbyist is Ozzie Rose. But they are a long, long, long ways away from any type of compromise. Ozzie and Jim Abbott believe that the reason for the last minute increase from 231 to 360 was simply a ploy, because they knew that this might come down to a negotiation. And so by raising it to 360 at the last minute, we're at 100, they're at 360, cut it in half, 231, they get exactly what they wanted in the start. Now, would I tell Sarah to turn the 360 back to ODE? Of course not. But do I have some definite qualms about this? Absolutely. Number one, I think it makes a huge target out of us. I think it reintroduces the Mark Hauses of the world to focus on small ESDs. Why are we having to pay them so much? Shouldn't they just be consolidated with the big ESDs? The other thing that I think it does is it puts so much money on the table. If I'm a district superintendent, I'm now going to consider opting out. Do I think that's really going to happen in Lake County? Absolutely not, because I don't think even District 7 is going to go out and look to hire their own part-time speech pathologist or part-time school psychologist or any of those services. But I just think in general creates a really bad environment. My third qualm about it is here at this, as we started by saying tonight, schools are not. Even the Democrats who supported the 7255 admit that it's not adequate funding. And yet we have a pretty greedy little bill to fund 5 ESDs. And I realize in the scheme of the Oregon budget, 1.2 million or whatever, 5 times 360,000, 1.5 million. It's a drop in the bucket. But I just firmly believe that it's not an appropriate measure at this time. As I told, the bulk of my testimony to the Senate Education Committee was that a $100,000 increase certainly does not buy back what the Lake ESD has lost, but it does allow us to continue our most important direct services to students. And again, it's the product of compromise. Just to kind of remind the board here of where that money's coming from. The 3 non-OAESD members, Grant, North Central, Wallowa, have huge tax bases. North Central has a $3.6 million a year tax base.
Wow.
But they're faced with the million, and this is their motivation. They have a $3.6 million tax base. Is that roughly correct, Sarah? I'm not exaggerating. And yet they're funded at $1 million.
So they're funding everybody else.
Exactly, and so they're sending $2.6 million a year scot-free into the state school fund. Okay, so and Wallowa and Grant have smaller tax bases, but still in excess of the $1 million. Okay, so what would happen is if our bill, the $100,000 bill, passes, the extra $100,000 for each of those 3 ESDs would come out of their tax bases. It would cost each and every school district in this state 2 pennies per ADMW, 2 cents. Okay. Now Lake and Harney were the 2 poor stepchildren. We don't have these huge tax bases. And so our funding literally comes out of the pockets of the other ESDs. It comes out of that 4.5%. And so what our bill would cost the other ESDs in this state is 30 cents per ADMW. But again, they have voted for it. They have supported it. They are not fighting it. First time, from what I'm understanding, it's the first, even though this subject is kicked around for a while, it's the first time that the large ESDs have agreed to support increased funding for the 5 small ESDs. Okay, one of the things that drives Mr. Myers and those other 3 ESDs nuts is that our our $100,000 request is not based on science, it's not based on data. Whereas, as I told you, theirs is based on inflation and increases to state school fund. That's their data, that's their science. So, checked with Mr. Mabbitt today, negotiations are ongoing, but the problem is, I don't expect that the large ESDs are gonna support much more than $100,000. In Mr. Mabbitt's words this afternoon, we're a long ways apart. Now, the good news is, if these two bills just continue to go their merry way, ours has a whole lot better chance of passing because it's smaller dollars. But again, what I don't like is it's called a lot more attention to this. This really, had it just been our bill, this would have been seen as very much a housekeeping issue. I think it would have had a very good chance to pass. Right now, Jim and Ozzy are a little bit worried, but they're continuing to work it, and we'll just have to see how it goes. So. The good news is, any other potentially damaging legislation seems to have stalled. Bills aimed at virtual charters and online charters and dorms. Bills to cut way down on the evaluation period for IEPs. Those crazy ideas don't seem to be getting traction.
Thank God.
Yeah.
We'll put that as good news.
Questions on any of that?
I'm glad that you're maneuvering through this maze.
Maneuvering, you bobbing and weaving.
Appreciate your work on this though. And I also appreciate from my perspective the ability to explain it in a manner that
We can understand.
I can understand. Because if something's explained in a way that even a Bob man can understand it, we're all in good shape.
I can get you copies of the bills. If you go to the legislative website, if you put in those bill numbers or just ESD funding, they'll pop right up to it. That bill tracker website I passed out last time also has but actually the legislative site I found is probably the best.
Stays pretty current. Any questions about the legislative status of our goodies? The audit RFP. Who wants to speak to that?
Please.
Please, okay. We put out for RFP for audit services as we do every 3 years. This year I sent the RFP out to the entire state, all of the municipal auditors, whereas before I kind of kept it south of Eugene and south, and then all of Southern. But we got 3 responses this year, which is better than we got last year. We got a response from, oh my gosh, I just lost it, Polly Rogers. They've presented before OASBO, they're very knowledgeable, they're very good, they're very expensive. We got a response from Gerard Siebert and Pollard, and they are within reasonable price, but they have low experience with schools. They've done 2 or 3 small charter schools. So, and then the third was, of course, Oster, who we're very familiar with. After talking with all the business managers who hopefully have talked with all their superintendents, that everybody agreed that Oster for this go around was still our best option. There was a loud unanimous voice that the timeline that we receive our audit needs to be tighter. In our RFP we said November we need to have our audits back. Just this last year that became somewhat problematic as they're getting spread a little bit thinner, but they still provided good audit services, just made some of our business managers a little nervous with the timing of the final audit. So the recommendation from the school districts, and I'm in agreement, is to go with Oster again. And if anybody wants to see the RFP, or the proposals from the audit firms, I've got copies here. So.
Clayton or Dale, do you guys have any input as far as your districts?
No, not really. I think our folks are pretty happy with Oster.
Yeah, I'm sorry, or Jim, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're-
We don't have any complaints.
I mean, I've always been told it's good to mix it up every couple of years, but all the superintendents, all the business managers, and our business manager, I think that's where we ought to go. Probably.
They're extremely thorough, I'll just say that.
Show up and break it down in terms you understand, that's awful nice too.
Great, what's our next step on that?
We picked the audit firm.
Yeah,
Your action item.
Oh, if I'd read the agenda, I would see that one. Apologies. So, any questions about the audit RFP? You know, I like to ask the really silly questions so that no one else's question would feel. Insurance opt-out. As we talked about monies and what's available to us and what we can provide for incentive.
We would like the board to consider employees, part-time employees being able to opt out of the insurance. And again, I think I'll turn it over to Sarah here.
okay.
Still talked out. I'm resting up for the next big onslaught here.
Okay, so, one of the optional benefits that a couple of the districts have, and it's a good benefit to have, is employees who have other group insurance coverage through a spouse, or I guess if they're younger teachers or younger staff through a parent, that if they have group coverage, then the district allows them to decline medical insurance and instead receive like a 403B retirement or some other cash benefit that is more useful to them. And it saves the district money in that it's generally a lesser dollar amount than the insurance cap.
Plus you're not paying the PERS and everything.
Right, yes.
No, I guess you're not paying PERS and everything.
You don't have to pay PERS on your insurance cap. You do have to on the opt-out benefit, but it still provides more savings. You don't have to pay your social security tax or the Medicare. That's the one, yeah.
So it goes in like a retirement, it doesn't go into their salary.
That's up for debate.
It's an option.
It's, some districts require that it goes into either like an HRA or, which is a health reimbursement account, or a 403B. From what I understand, requiring a 403B is not entirely by the book for IRS regulations because it's not a health benefit, so it's not, they're completely separate. And I've been advised that it's a better approach to allow a person to take the cash as added salary, but.
See, we used to do that, and our auditor and said that you're offering benefits to one to the other. One's insurance and one's more cash, and we have to stop it. We took it to the lawyer.
No, it's
Yeah.
been doing it.
Yeah, so that's interesting, and it could be because schools is different, so I was just curious on that, huh?
I know at our
Right.
school, at one
Yeah.
time, it was, say with the school district, at one time, I don't know what it is now, originally it was around $50,000.
Oh, yeah, I'd imagine,
It's
because
a good
insurance
And I'm
is
not sure
high.
what it is now.
Yeah.
And we kind of altered it a little bit
Right.
to fit salaries, I think, instead of a flat rate that's based off salary. But they still do the 403B, right?
They do the 403B.
But they have to
yeah.
pay, if they want their money out, they have to pay the taxes.
Yeah, I don't think that North Lake employees have the option of additional salary. I think it's just 40%
No, it's
of
that
the
or the
insurance cap.
health savings account.
Yeah, yeah.
In District 7, it's a choice between an HRA and a 403B.
So, but for the ESD, it has the potential of saving us some money, while at the same time providing employees with a more valuable benefit, you know. Most employees will take double coverage since it's available, and so it still costs the ESD money. But really, it would be more useful to them as a 403B. So it's just something to think about, something.
And it would save us money.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
It would, It would.
It's one of those deals that you're thinking, well, if they're getting double coverage, why?
Mhm.
So I feel like at our district, I feel like, wow, we're paying them because they don't need it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, but in reality, it's a heck of a savings
Yes.
that the businesses can make off of it.
That's right.
You almost feel like you're blackmailing yourself by doing it, I guess, is what I'm saying. But I think it's a worth rate in our school.
Yeah.
Well, what I like about this though is that to be eligible for that offset, you have to provide proof.
Yes, oh yeah,
Their
you
enrollment
can't
or
just
group
give
coverage.
your word,
Yes.
so,
Okay.
and
We don't
on
have
the flip
employees
side,
hanging out there.
yeah. Or
How often
actually
would they,
it's,
oh, sorry.
go for it,
Oh, I don't even know at our district, how often would they have to prove up on that?
every year,
Every year?
during the open roll enrollment. The last paragraph on that front page just gives a estimate of the annual savings for employees. And, you know, it's up for discussion, we can tailor it however seems best, it's just, we wanted to put it out there as a thought.
How do you think that would be received with our staff?
I think that there are probably currently maybe 3 employees who would be eligible to opt out. And I think that those employees would appreciate it, just because, you know.
So as an item for thought, when are we going to revisit this, or you know, we're gonna kind of set some timelines out there to think it through more fully?
Yeah, if it's a benefit that the board is agreeable toward, I would like to have it in place by our August board meeting to vote on implementing it so that it's there during our open window enrollment in September.
And we'll do some more research into it and look into what Vicky's comment.
No, I mean, the 403 and the health
Yeah.
savings, that's different than it rolling back into their salary
Yeah.
kind of thing. So that's why I asked.
Yeah.
This is, yeah, legit, so, yeah.
Maybe this should be an agenda item for our May meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
For
We'll keep it,
more
we will
discussion.
keep it on the agenda.
And if anybody has any questions or anything that they wanna bring up regarding this as you go on your way and you think about it more, feel free to contact us, email us, and we can have specific information ready at the next board meeting.
Oh, our favorite topic ever, surveys. I know it's Debbie's favorite topic ever.
It's getting less favorite all the time. I was gonna start with just a huge apology. We've had this open for how many weeks? 3. Debbie has sent numerous reminders. We have very few responses. Virtually all of the responses we have are from Paisley and North Lake. So Dale and Clayton, you guys you should commend your folks. We started looking at this, and I'm sorry, I did not look at it at all until today.
Percentage basis though.
Well, ADL, yeah, very well represented, absolutely. And so actually tonight at dinner, I asked my wife, I said, well, did you get a copy of this? And she said no. So what I propose here is basically tabling this. I will make sure, even though Debbie has, and the other area where we're getting very little response is in the community partners.
Did it go out online to community partners?
Yes.
Did you send it to Head Start?
You responded to my email.
Okay, I know I get one as him, and then, okay, the last one we responded was, I sent his superintendent.
No, I think
Okay,
you responded
I was
to
gonna
my
say, because I
city.
had Luann and Marissa do one, okay, you did send it, okay.
But you'll see there's virtually nothing from District 7, nothing. And so I apologize. I wish I had focused on this a little sooner before today and seen that we had such a paltry response. I will kick some rear ends and get some more responses. I hope. I think I should at least be able to get my wife to respond.
It's such a tough thing though. I mean, it's, everybody, let me retract, that's a too broad a statement. People in general are very quick to have commentary about things that they'd like to see differently until presented with the option to have input on what they think. And that's across the board. That's so difficult for the time that goes into it to reap a useful, productive document from. And yet, if you don't do it, then you're not providing a measured path.
Well, and I certainly feel badly too, because, you know, as I talked you guys into, you know, reducing particularly the community partner piece on my evaluation and putting our eggs in this basket, and then, again, this morning's Easter, and I look in my Easter basket, my eggs are gone. There's not much there, so, if there's things on there you wish to discuss, or, like I say, I definitely wanna keep this on the agenda for next month. We will make another run at particularly District 7 and the community partners, because those, and it's not for Debbie's lack of trying. She has sent out several reminders.
I'm open to suggestions on how to get community partners.
Well, you know,
response.
how many survey response, or how many times have you received a telephone call, or you've called to order something, they ask, you know, would you be willing to participate in the survey? And if you do, we're gonna put your name in for a drawing for a $25 gift card. Well, I personally have changed my, sure, okay, I mean, what the heck? I mean, it sounds silly, but, you know, maybe we offer up an opportunity to.
Dang, we just gave away that copier today.
We just,
Win a copier?
But incentive of
A
some
chance to
kind,
win,
particularly for the community.
a chance to win a free photo.
To go, huh?
I think most people, you know, just, I'll do it later and then
Yeah.
it's
we
forgotten.
sent out, when we did them for the health CCO advisory, surveyed on the dental and the same with the physicals. I think one, we put in $1 in each of them we sent out, and we had like a 60-something% return, which is pretty good. And we put $2 in the last one, and that was even a higher percentage.
Did
We
you
got
do a
that.
paper mailing?
Yeah,
'Cause
and return envelope.
You have to
and-
pay them?
Well, I mean, it worked, and we had money in it to do it because it's the
How many
health thing,
people
and they
kept
have
the money
lots of
in
money.
hand?
I mean, it's $2, it's in
30%
there,
the
it's,
first
I
time.
mean, there's always money
That's
in
what I'm
there,
wondering.
yeah. But at least they returned it when they kept the money,
They bought their
but,
Snickers bar.
yeah, it's like the same thing as, you know,
One of
you're
the
in a drawing.
discussion, one of the discussion points we've had in the last year though was about the time and the effort that it takes Debbie and the gang here to do a paper mailing and then manually collect
Right.
everything. So again, you get to, where's your cost and your benefit,
Yeah.
and what are we getting out of it?
Yeah.
If we get 25 responses
Yeah.
by mailing things manually and all the work that goes into it, we got 20 responses via an electronic query, I mean, how do we balance that?
Usually people that are angry will respond to surveys, so I figure if we really were upsetting the community, we would get a better response.
I
So
really
maybe
think
it's a good thing that we're getting such a low response because, you
The
know, they're
district-
satisfied.
the District
We can
7
only try.
The District 7 situation, I think, can be explained very simply that, you know, those surveys were sent to administrators who then did not send them on to their staff. So I think that one can be, the community partner thing, yeah, we may have to put some sort of enticement there, but as far as the school districts, I think with a phone call in the morning, I can get that kind of cleared up.
You know, Bob, you said something about enticement. When we were battling to save our post office in Summer Lake, we had a meeting where we did, you come, you're entered for a $50 gas
Yeah.
certificate.
Yeah.
And we filled the place, you know, it was just an extra incentive, and guys
Yeah.
came, you know, I just wanted, you know.
Yeah, that's
So
why I
I
was
think-
saying, even if it's one thing and
Dinner
everyone
or
that we
something,
get,
or
yeah.
2
Well,
days
if-
stay
yeah.
someplace.
I mean,
If
heck,
we get your survey back, your name goes into.
I'll pony up a few
you know?
bucks towards it so it doesn't have to come out of the budget.
Well, you could probably
But-
call some of these places, they'd be glad to donate
Donate,
for the
yeah,
free
yeah.
advertising.
But just if, you know, you don't have to put it in any mail, I'm just saying incentive really does work. So if you just did a, you know, a dinner or dinner at a couple places or something, and the names would go in when they returned, and then,
I'm just wondering how many of the emails I sent out go directly to somebody's spam, because they have not gotten an email from me before,
That could be.
so that could.
We'll make,
But not all of them.
Hesner and.
But not all of them,
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
not all.
no,
yeah, it's just
so, it's just kinda,
disappointing.
it was, these results were very disappointing.
Of course, if Ken Kestner won the certificate, you know, they'd say, wow, this is.
We will beat the bushes and to hopefully come back to you with better data next month.
Well, then, no sense beating on that anymore, and I think every year that's going to have some level of discussion about, again, cost benefit. If you look at a business, what are we getting out of our present return? And we need it,
We're
But-
required to
but,
do.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
but it also needs to be valuable. It can't just be for road, there it is.
Did you read your policy?
Of course.
At dinner?
Yeah, that's what I did, yeah.
So, now we have board policies, first reading.
Yeah, we have half a dozen or so policies here. These are some of the simplest and straightforward. Now, I'm sure we'll have a 2-hour discussion on some of these. They struck me as pretty simple and straightforward, not a lot of you know, real, trying to figure out what the policy is really about. The first one, DN, disposal of ESD property, just adds to our current policy that any ESD property that was purchased through any grant, state, federal, or private grants, has to be disposed of in accordance with those same grant requirements. And it's not required, but it's highly recommended. Emergency closures, again, it's highly recommended. You'll find the old policy on the back. They're very similar, but what this new policy does is really just streamline the language and the conditions. For example, the first one, superintendent shall determine when conditions warrant delayed opening, early closure, or full day closure of ESD offices. If you turn it over, you know, it was 3 sentences before, and it kind of talked about other contingencies, but it cuts to the heart of the issue now. The superintendent will just make the call, and that's really the way it is. The only other change is down in the very last sentence. Extended closures due to emergencies may result in modification of the work calendar. If you turn it over, you'll see there was, again, 2 or 3 sentences, and it was a little more muddled. So they've just made it much more clear.
And the bottom line is there are contracts with service hours in place, and if closures result in something there, you gotta adjust to it.
Yes.
Should be self-explanatory.
GBDA, mother-friendly workplace.
We just had to put this in place.
Yeah, this is a required policy if ESD has 25 or more employees. Although I think it's not a bad policy to have for new mothers, and we certainly have some candidates here. So anyway, it's not a policy that we've had in the past, but certainly when it comes to things around new mothers, nursing, etc., it's probably a very appropriate policy. The next one, GBM Staff Complaints. This just simply adds to our current policy what I would call a whistleblower clause that makes it unlawful for there to be any punishment or retaliation against anybody who makes a complaint. And that's the highlighted paragraph.
And that's really in response to ORS.
Yes, yes. It is also highly recommended. Then the last 3, I have to laugh because our non-prescription medication and our prescription medication, this is like the 3rd time that this has come up because new policy, these are all required, and as you can see there, they've added the language, non-prescription medication be handled, stored, monitored, disposed of, and records maintained in accordance with established district regulations governing administering non-injectable or injectable or prescription, on and on. And That's just, we have that policy that just adds that statement. Okay, very similar on the next one, on prescription medication, very similar statement. And then also on the AR. And those three are all.
That was invigorating discussion. And the last item under information and discussion items. Re-election, the at-large position. We have a position open. And I believe we're looking at a write-in candidate campaign.
Hey,
And the name
I turned my stuff in.
and the name to write in is?
Well, let me back up a little bit. We recently found out that we actually have 2 positions where there's not going to be names on the ballot. Is Jeanette also an at-large? What is she?
Zone 1.
Jeanette is zone 1, Vicky is at-large.
Well, I'm zone 5 now.
No,
Aren't I?
we switched you from zone 5 to at-large.
Okay.
We
Oh, that's
switched you to
right,
Jen.
when I switched with
Yeah. So-
Leslie, okay, yeah, and now we wanna, okay.
Yeah.
So we have,
And I got there and found out I was late to register.
Yeah,
I
need
missed the
that.
deadline.
so,
You did
So
good,
what zone?
at large.
at-large.
And she'll make me mad, cause if I'd have just not done it, you save yourself
I
$10.
know. I've done it
I mean,
3
it's-
times before, though,
Yeah.
switching around with other people, but I
Yeah.
thought I had till the end of the month, and there I went.
I
It was the
did it.
15th, and I showed up on the 20th. She goes, too late. I mean, Lake County, really, the ballots haven't gone out yet.
Something
I will-
about if
I
you
will
would've made me
learn,
count
I'm
names
new
to
at
fill a
this, but
position.
I will
You're
mark
actually
down on
good
my
at it.
calendar every year when that deadline is, and I will be
Call, email,
bugging whoever the
cookies,
unfortunate
cookies. I got
members of
him
the
signed
board
up
are.
one time because I
So,
promised cookies.
So what do we need to do here?
Well, write in
Vicky's
Vicky's
name.
name for at-large.
And what is,
When we
and
get
and
Jeanette,
Jeanette?
zone 1.
Oh, and
and
Jeanette
Jeanette
zone
zone
1.
So
Write her name
only
in. She
folks
didn't
in
make it
zone,
zone
in those
one.
precincts
Yeah.
will see her name on the ballot.
That's true.
Or will see an
That's
opportunity to vote. So
Right.
what is zone 1 again?
Oh boy, let me go get it.
Okay,
Because I think that's something that as a board, knowing that
yeah.
for those precincts that zone 1 covers,
Yeah.
we need to get the word out to folks that, oh, oops, hey, we got an idea for somebody to write in. It's the incumbent.
Yeah.
That way we don't have 15 votes for Mickey Mouse and 2 votes for Jeanette. I mean, because that proves to be an issue. It really does, believe it or
Probably
not.
wouldn't hurt to do a newspaper advertisement either.
Oh, that
Well,
2
depending on
people
where zone
forgot
1
to do it
is.
on time, no
What
thanks.
zone 1 covers. Is it north,
We're really
south,
gonna get you in there,
between?
Jim.
I don't
Remember, I
remember.
think Bob's gonna look.
Basically, you get a phone call. They call you.
You only need 10, I think, is, don't you?
Yeah, no, we won't be able to get information.
I thought 3 or, yeah, it's real
who the
low.
incumbent is.
Cause
Oh,
we got a
okay.
board member that we don't have, we have a board position
Okay.
that's open that Shane Foreman didn't run in because his wife's pregnant and she's like, nope. That he slipped up at the meeting and said, well, if a few people wrote my name.
Okay.
Now let's tell everybody, you know.
That's funny.
And he
I don't
thought he
know if he
was
told
just,
his wife that yet. though,
yeah,
so.
and he thought he was just
Zone
speaking to the
1.
people in the room, huh?
Is all of the precincts south of Center Street. Precincts 8, 9, and 21.
South of center. Shoot.
That's
That
where
means
she's
everybody's
at.
looking at
About
me
to 9th,
to get the word out.
to about 9th Street and then.
Yeah, tonight,
then
yeah, it
9th
starts,
Street then becomes
yes.
zone 5 where
Yeah,
Jim
which
is.
is weird.
It's weird.
9, yeah, south 9 down and then up over, yeah,
Yeah. So, that,
okay. And how, isn't it 10? Do we know how many have to be voted? It's a small amount.
Can you just put an ad in the paper?
I don't think she said there had to be a certain
Okay.
amount.
If Jeanette put an ad in the paper,
That's what I'm saying.
it would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Now, I'll just call 2-2.
Yeah.
7 tomorrow,
Yeah,
go
because
through all
isn't
the
there a
little
whole
ones
thing
and
that
say,
names
hey,
have
write
to
into
spell
that,
exactly
write
right
into
and
that,
all
all
that,
her
too.
coworkers,
There are
write
some
into
rules
that.
to it.
Yeah.
There are some rules to a write-in. You can't just say Bob Party if in fact it's supposed to be Robert Party. I mean, there
Yeah,
are some
there's that,
things that
there's-
can be interpreted incorrectly as a result.
And it has to be that it's in the correct precinct.
Mhm.
The
Correct.
person writing
Right.
it is in the correct
Has to be in that
precinct for
precinct.
that zone.
Mhm.
So I think that's the precinct that John lives in,
But zone,
where Zone 1 is, south of Center and north of 9th Street.
no,
No,
Mhm.
John
I'm
says-
north.
South of
North of
Center is
Ford.
going that way, and Jeanette is Center, and she's,
No, I'm talking about physically. Don't you live in this, what we're calling Zone 1?
I live,
No,
north of 4th Street.
he lives in
Why did
zone-
I think you were
He's
down
in
there?
zone 3.
that's why I was
I'm in
saying.
my own zone, obviously.
I know, because I was gonna say, I pick him up and then pick you up, because it's on the way
Is that
up
for that?
at the meeting, yeah.
Disregard,
It's
disregard.
on the
Jeremy
north
really
end,
does those.
yeah.
What happens when you hear whirring fans?
So Jeanette is, because she's not here tonight, she said yes, she was gonna go again, okay. Or we just start writing her.
Well, I think that maybe something as a board that we could do is maybe we could each drop Jeanette a note or give her a call and encourage her to promote her candidacy as a write-in.
Mhm.
That's more appropriate than anything
Yeah.
else this group can
Right,
do.
exactly, yeah.
Right,
Because we
yeah.
really can't
No,
make any, yeah.
Mhm.
And honestly,
But now, and so I understand this, if we don't live in that zone, your vote as a write-in doesn't count, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Only, yeah, only for the at-large.
But everybody will have the at-large, so we can all,
Yes.
we can all encourage Vicki to promote her candidacy for the at-large role.
Yeah.
And then anybody who lives in zone 1 who wishes to,
Correct.
and I think there's a couple of us
Yeah,
that might wish to,
yeah.
without promoting it.
Because it would be a real bummer to have an opening and then have to take a letter.
Who's up next year? I'm gonna
interest.
start bugging them right now.
Pretty much everybody knows.
So anyway, but that is important though. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be great if there was a flurry of people all clamoring at the door wanting to be involved, but lacking that, I think it's good for us to encourage our incumbents to be active. Okay, that takes us right into action items. We had discussion regarding the audit RFP that went out. I believe that we've had a recommendation that's been presented by the business manager and as has been reviewed by the other business managers in the school districts for Oster Professional Services to be the auditor of choice.
Go make that motion.
second.
Motion made
I will
and
second.
seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next budget and regular board meeting, Tuesday, May 19th, Paisley School, 6:30 PM. I believe Dale is bringing hot chocolate that week.
I thought you were making pizza.
With the only other thing I would ask, just because I like to ask at each one, is do we have anything for the good of the order? Of folks that we know and deal with that we should be aware of and part of? Everybody's healthy, happy, good stuff happening. Life is wonderful, warm and fuzzy, and peaches and cream and butterflies and honey.
Kumbaya.
Well, that's symbolic.
No, it's not something.
I know.
No, not at all.
Well, with that then, I entertain a motion.
Sure, make a motion.
Everyone have a great evening. Everybody drive safe on your way home. If you do not have your Deer bingo cards updated, leave them alone tonight.
I was gonna say, yeah, that.